Okay, welcome to today's weekly learning Tanya, Lessons in Tanya, page 444. We're already in chapter 34, and we're already now in the climax of the Sphira. Today is Yisod Sheba Malchus, or Malchus Sheba Yisod rather, and we're going to be going into Malchus tonight, Chesed Sheba Malchus, and the whole siyum is tali on our achana, how we prepare ourselves for Kabbalah Torah. There's no better way to do that and build those kelim through learning the holy Baal Tanya's Torah, because he was someone who was systemized Pnimius Torah and Chassidus, especially with the Hilula of the Baal Shem Tov coming up, Shavuos and David HaMelech, and also the aura from Rus, the Ger, the koyach of Gerim, of transforming this world into a place of Sheichnah, a place of Dira Tachtonim, which is all about what Tanya is about. And being that this week and last week we were all by the Bar Mitzvah of Nissan Black's oldest son, Yaakov, and we'll be going to David Emmanuel's wedding this week. We're also going to put a link there for a fundraiser to help towards the wedding, because Nissan has taken responsibility to be their parents, like him and his wife Adina are the father and mother on the Azmana, and they're taking a responsibility as they are with the whole community of many Gerim, and it's like, Abba Avinu and Sarah. And I was just listening to a podcast with Mendy Chikchik. He's someone who I had what to do with through the bookings and travels over the years, and he's been influential in Istanbul and helping transform Am Yisrael into Baruch Hashem, transforming the Muslim world into a place where Am Yisrael can thrive. As my own sons testify, when they were in Istanbul, they were able to get kosher food thanks to his guidance. And all the different bookings we've done for the Russian community in Istanbul and also the Turkish community, and what didn't work out will work out, please God. And it's just nice to hear him as an example of someone who, through Nissan Black and other people I was able to connect with, and here there is hope throughout the world for humanity, and not just Am Yisrael, but we're together. And that's the vision of the Babich Rebbe that comes from learning Tanya. So it says, and we learned this last week, that ever since the Beis HaMikdash was destroyed, it became all tali on the Arba Amas of Halacha. That's where Hashem's Sheichnah is dwelling, where Hashem's revelation continues after the destruction of the Churban Beis HaMikdash, of the first and the second, until we have the third. Shehu Ratzon Yisbach v'Chamasam Mevushim v'Holchis Aruchas L'Faneinu. For the halakha set out before us actual embodiments of Hashem's will and wisdom. So when we're learning halakha, like right now, I had a question that I gave over to my kinder at Shalasudis, and hopefully I'll use that for when I speak at Shir David for Shavuos. We're still in the process of learning it, but the concept that my Rebbe, the Tanya Rebbe, brought down, that you have to always have questions in halakha on your mind. This is how you learn how to think like a yid. Something Rebbe Victor Miller was very strong. He said there's many people who act like Jews. They get up, they daven, and they talk like Jews. Yeah, but to think like a yid, that takes a lot of inner avoda. So the Rebbe, Tanya Rebbe, says one of the ways you learn how to think like a yid is constantly to have questions in halakha and Torah mindset of thinking in Torah. And the way you do that is by having kashas and teretz and thinking like the Gemara, thinking like the poskim, thinking like a yid should think. You're constantly. One of the questions I had many years ago when I was done by Rav Simon Zilberg, and we'll get into it a bit more. But is there a concept called kavana lemafreya? It's a chiddush I thought of. Can you fix up your davening, your sfira sa'omer, your avoda, after the fact, after the Zman of Tefillah, after the Zman of Kriya Shema, after you've said the Bracha and Sfira Sa'omer, can you make a tikkun, a Kavana Levafreya? This is the question. We're not going to get into all the svaras that I will share on Shavuos, B'li Neder, Be'ezras Hashem, B'sata Dishmaya. But the Nakuda is, it's a question that's worth thinking about, because if you really want to have a connection with Hashem, and you're an honest person, and you know that when you wake up in the morning, you're not in the best state. Like we're already now, Sunday, it's around 9 in the morning, just before we're going to have a shir here, and there's a bit of pressure to make sure we learn the Tanya accordingly, and we want to understand the will of Hashem, how it comes down through halacha, so we can have a connection to Hashem in the deepest way. But we've also got the pressures of the week on our mind, and and it's hard to be fully present and engaged. That's one of the challenges of Yesod, of being a shtavus, of having the Surah Yesod. It's a shtavus, is being present, being totally engaged. That's why you have someone like the Baal Tanya who could bring down such an awe of the Sefer Tanya, because he was totally present when writing these svarim on the highest level. So it was the biggest gilui of Sheichnah in Torah, because that takes focus and presence. And that's something which we have to work on, but often we're not. So is there a concept of the kavana lemafreya? That's the question. In therefore, and this is the sort of goes into what I was discussing, my own question. Therefore, after one meditates deeply, according to his abilities in the subjects above mentioned, self-nullification, and reflect in his heart as follows: Ki muhus cotton chakli v'shosh nashmasaber kli meheichel lios v'kava mishkan liyichto yisbach be'emes lamito. The capacity of my intention, my soul's root, is too limited to constitute charity and abode for Hashem's unity and perfect truth. Ma'acher daleis machshava delei tefisei masagas bo'yisbach klar v'chlar shum hasaga ba'olam. For my thoughts cannot grasp or apprehend His unity at all with any degree of comprehension in this world. Lo yishametz mino masagas avos neviim, not an iota, in fact, of which was grasped by the patriarchs and the neviim. Yeah, so we already mentioned that one of the concepts is we have to makash ourselves to those who are able to have these true kavanas. That's part of Elokei Avraham Elokei Yitzchak Elokei Yaakov. V'shmon Esrei, we miyachid ourselves, makash ourselves to the tzaddikim and the avos kadoshim who had the true kavanas, the neviim, the pure kavanas of the right. Whereas most of us cannot grasp or apprehend His unity within this world. As Zois Aselo Mishkan Muchan Shivto, who Asik Talmud Torah Kviya Penoy Shalim V'Kvias Itim Beyond Belayla. This being so, I make him a sanctuary and abode by studying Torah at fixed times by day and night to the extent of my free time. Well, obviously, the whole concept of free time is, that if we leave it to that, in our generation, there is no free time because we have these stupid phones, the dumb phones. No, they're not smart, they're dumb. They make us dumb. So we have to be smarter than that, be more elevated than that, and be able to figure out how we can gun of time. As the Kotzker says, we have to be a gazlan, but only in Torah. We have to steal time for Torah. There's a free time, I don't know if that's happening, but stealing time, making gevulim, being a gibor and strong, and when we come to learn, that's a mochama. Instead, by the law governing each individual situation set forth in the laws of Talmud Torah, as our sages say, even one chapter in the morning and one at night. So all we have to do at least is by learning one moment of learning proper chapter of Torah, like a chapter Tanya or a chapter of a Mishnah or a chapter of a Gemara, one little shtickle daf yomi or whatever it is. Like Baruch Hashem, we have Eli Stefansky helping us, all these other shlichim to learn, and all the podcasting. I feel like I had a shir Torah from Mendy Chikchuk when I was listening to the podcast. So I'm kind of person, like for example, when they asked him, who are you, where'd you come from? He didn't really want to talk about himself. He didn't want to begin the conversation. That already has a limit. You can learn from him. You don't begin a discussion about yourself. A lot of podcasts, when the guys couldn't be more excited to talk about himself or herself, that's already like the opposite of what Mendy Chichak was representing, because he's a shliach. He didn't say it in a bravado, strong way. He said it very humbly. He said that he doesn't feel comfortable starting a conversation talking about himself. He said, even though a lot of what I'm doing has a reflection of myself, but it's not how he wants to begin a conversation. And that's to understand how he ended it as well. The shlichus of the Rebbe, that's the bittul that these Chabad shlichim have, and that's why they're so matzliach in being able to go anywhere in the world and to be able to bring Hashem's light, because they're not doing it with ego if they're truly a shliach. So this is the concept of Ma'amar Rizal. Filu Perek Achad Shachris, even one chapter on one night. Thereby his heart shall rejoice, he shall be glad and offers joyous thanks for his fortune. What a schus we have, that we have the opportunity every morning and night to learn a little bit of Torah and to tap into the inyan of bringing the Sheichnah into the world, which is really part of what we're here for. According to the Tanya, Derech Tachtona is one of the main reasons we're in creation. And they have different svaras of what's the purpose of Tachlis of us being here. Tachlis with as Rav Sadia, what was his name yesterday spoke? Saidi. Rav Saidi said, thank you. The idea, he was making a bridge between Torah Sinista, Torah Sinigla, and before Mincha, giving us that chizah between Lag Ba'omer and Shavuos, like that connection between the two types of Torah. Moshe and Rabbi Shimon went up together to talk about cover the Torah. Shevi's Rosh Tevis, Shimon Bar Yochai. Yeah. So that was the inyan. So, but anyway, the point is that when you have these two different ways of learning and connection of Torah of Nigla and Nista, so you understand that bringing the Sheichnah needs both aspects, and it needs a certain level of bittul and understanding and a simcha, but it needs a certain of kaviyas and consistency, because night and day, every night and every day deserves to have its man of yichud, its man of krishma, its man of the yichud, the unification. That's part of what the question we're having with with Am Yisrael in Golis is, can we bring the Sheichnah into our daily life? So the answer is yeah, through the constant learning and the davening on a daily level, being consistent, even one perek, and to be samer, to have a simcha mitzvah, a true joy that we have a portion in this koyach to bring down such holy Torah from Moshe, from Shem Bar Yochai, from Moshe Rabbeinu, from the Tzaddikim, and that's part of the Kabbalah Torah, that it's not just the preparations, but also the mindset to makabel upon ourselves to be more strong in this joy and this simcha and this true hashkafa of what Torah is. Bezichin lekavur pamim b'chol yom k'fi ha'etz ha'panoi shelo k'masas yado asher ha'achlev Hashem. It merit to be a host to the Almighty through His learning of Torah, and that makes a sanctuary, a mishkan for Hashem, twice each day, according to the extent of His available time. So I said that my touch was there's no such thing as available time for our generation. Once you have these phones, you're already an eved to the phone. So to be an eved Hashem, you have to fight that bochama. So you're never really Panoi, you're never really free. You're fighting constantly to kind of guzzle time from the Yetzer Hara, and to bring the Sheichnah into your life. To say that you have free time, that was the old days. What did they have instead of the phone? When they were finished work and they'd done everything, what did they have to do? Go to sleep? What? Eat a little bit, talk to their wife a little bit, play with their kids, or go to bed. They didn't have any of the distractions that we have now, and the shibud that this whole system has on us. So that is, we have to fight for that concept of free time for Torah. According to the capacity which God has granted. So that makes us on a certain level a higher madrigal than the previous generations, because we're always in a state of we're always being tested whether we're going to have free time to learn and daven. So since we're in such a generation that's constantly being tested in that gives us a high madrigal. That's why we are roy to be the ones to become a Pnei Mashiach, because our learning and our ability to bring the Sheichnah into our life takes such more hard work, and it's such a more of a malus. And the whole test is really, are we amul b'Torah? Are we really amul? Are we making the full effort in our Yiddishkeit to really achieve to really achieve what's needed to be able to bring the Sheichnah into our life? So then says the Balatanya Vaita, yeah? We're going to learn a little bit, Rav Bornstein, but just before we do, if God grants him a great abundance of time for Torah study, so for example, I get a whole morning, my wife organized a get-together with the family. First time they're coming to our new home. We've moved 10 times. It's the first time since our first home, when we first got married, that some of the family are coming to visit us in our new home. They've never been to our new home, to our home, in 23 years of marriage. So it's a big deal for my wife's side. I hope most of them will be there. Yeah? And that's starting at 11 o'clock. Hashem's chesed is, if we would have started at 10 o'clock, I wouldn't be able to be in the shir coming up. So you have to constantly demonstrate to the Shemaya that when you make arrangements that it shouldn't go into the small times that we have set aside for learning, we should be able to keep those times for learning. If God grants him a great abundance of time for Torah study, then he whose hands are pure will increase his efforts. He should resolve that as more time becomes available to him, he will devote it to Torah study. Moreover, Hashem reckons a good intention is an actual deed. Machshava Tova started from the Maisa, famous Gemara in Kedushin. But basically, whenever you have a good thought, but you're not always able to do it, you still get it the schar. Machshava Tova. That's how Hashem does. Mida Tova Ruba. Telling my second son this whole Shabbos again and again. Mida Tova Ruba. You have to talk with positive. You have to learn Torah in a way that gives you encouragement, gives you chizuk. Amet Rak Hazak V'Amat said Moshe to Yeshua to Am Yisrael, all the way down before Mashiach comes. We have to learn Torah in a way that encourages us. Doesn't give musar us, doesn't beat us up. It gives us chizuk to keep going forward and to have to face the nisyonos vadol. There are different kinds of neshamas. Some Sephardi neshamas seem to get chizuk from getting musar, but maybe there's some Ashkenazis as well. But majority of Ashkenazim, we're already naturally a bit down and on ourselves anyway. So I don't think it helps us too much, that derech, other than to break us more. We need to be mechazik. So that's why I was telling him that you have to also get a rav as well and get hadracha, what you learn. You can't just learn anything. And even when you're learning Sefer Tanya, when I'm learning, giving over Tanya now, this isn't Eli Goldsmith. This is hundreds of hours of shiurim from Moshe Wilson, from Ezra Tauber, from Avshais Taub, from Manis Friedman, from all the different Chabad Shlichim like Rav Mendel Kaplan. I go on and on and on. Rav Y.Y. Jacobson. This is hours and hours of my life that I gave to listening to shiurim and being in person in the Mayanot and other shiurim in Tanya that I had discussed to learn b'chavusa with Tam Chachomim. And that hours and hours, days and days of my life given over to learning Tanya. Hearing now from Shmuel Diamond, he's giving over a very interesting Chabura on Tanya. This is my life. That's what I do. So then, when I'm saying over Tanya, it's not from me. It's from a Masorah of Rabbonim of Tzaddikim who understand it in a deep, deep, deep way. And then I feel I have the schus to say a bit of Tanya, but also tighten it up a little bit according to our door. That we have to, even though everything he said was Kodesh Kadoshim, and what I'm saying is based on a Masorah, but this is the Torah Shebeksav Chassidus Tanya. That's why it's written in a certain way. That it's the Torah Shebeksav. Torah Shebapeh is the Perushim, and we have to bring it, apply it for our door. For example, the Panai concept, having free time, and the more we add time, it's such an accomplishment our door. This concept of learning and fixing and learning with all the distractions, that you can literally be on any kind of thing other than learning, and yet you use your phone for Torah anytime, or you use it for, I get my Chabad emails every day from the Chabad.org and Tanya in Chitas. I get them on Daily Dose. I get every day, and I learn them every day on my phone. So I know in my email box I'm going to get some Torah as well. And then I have all the other apps, and they have Spotify, all the amazing shiurim, and on Apple Podcasts as well, the Rav Y.Y. shiurim, and v'chulu v'chulu. There's so much ability for us to constantly grow in learning, but there's still nothing better than actually sitting with someone and learning with a sefer, or what we're going to do Shavuos, have shiurim, or to learn ponim al ponim. That's what Moshe Weinberg used to say to me. The blessing he used to give me whenever I'd see him in Eretz Yisrael, we should be zog to learn ponim al ponim, to learn face to face, because it's a different level when you're looking at a yid and you're learning. When I had a Shara Sidus with my kinder this Shabbos, it's a different level than me sending this shir online to them for them to listen to, or someone else to listen to. It's a whole other level when we sit together and learn. So that's why I always daven should be zog to learn ponim al ponim with yidden, and whoever that is, whenever that is, Hashem decides. But the point is, it's a big schus to sit together and learn face to face. When I went back to London, I got to give a shir to all these bochrim. It was a different level than if I would have sent them the shir, because I have sent them shirim. But when they sit there and we learn together and face to face, it's a whole other level. Even during the remainder of the day, when he's engaged in business, he would be a boat for Hashem. How? By giving tzedakah. Out of what? Out of the haslacha from his work. So when you're doing the rest of the day, you'll say, but what's going to be the rest of my day? I'm not sitting and learning with a sefer. Fine, nowadays you have podcasts, you have ways you can still learn while working for sort of, I once, when I first did tshuva, I was working in an office for my father in London, and I was going to the JLE and learning Torah from Rabbi Akiva Tatz and other Rabbonim. Avi Hill was a rabbi then. I was learning a lot of, he's now a rabbi in Tel Aviv. I was learning a lot of Torah in the day, but I still had to work for my father in his office, and I was sending out packages for James Bond and wrestling and this and that, all the things they do. And I remember when I came to Yeshiva, I got a phone call from my father the old school phone box, and he said to me, "What did you do? What was the story with all your orders?" So many of them went to a decent amount. Enough of them went to places not correctly or not the right addresses. I said, "Dad," I said, "I'm at a point where I was so dedicated trying to get back some tradition of Yiddishkeit and learn that I honestly was not focused when I worked for you. I really didn't want to do it." Maybe that's a mistake. I shouldn't. You should never. When you work for someone, you have to work for them. But the point is that it showed how much I wanted the Torah at that time. And that's one of the reasons I ended up in yeshiva, because it's all about what you want, really. It's not about what. No one was forcing me to go. No one was the opposite. People were against me going to yeshiva. So for me to go to yeshiva, I had to really want it. So it was showing. Even the last time I was working in London in a professional job in that world, all I really wanted was to come to learn. And now that was an akudah. The point is, it's going to be hard when you're working. Now you're older and you've responsibilities and you have to work. There's no running off to yeshiva at this age. Yeah, generally you can have a sabbatical. There are ways around it, but you can find a time in the morning, late at night. But generally, the daytime is for panasa, for majority of us. So you have to understand that all the tzedakah, when you give tzedakah, or when it's the kaddish your avoda. Charity is one of Hashem's attributes. So when you become about tzedakah with your panasa, you become like Hashem. Just like Hashem is compassionate, you're becoming compassionate, and that's becoming like Hashem, which is the fakus, even in your work situation. And you're having kindness. Kindness is the right arm of Hashem, so to speak. So we become, as the Tikkun Zohar is teaching us, we become like Hashem in giving kindness and doing kindness. Even though one sheep is no more than 1/5, that's the maximum requirement of tzedakah. Obviously we have ma'aser, but that's 10th. But 1/5 is the higher level. That 5th elevates of all the other 4 parts to Hashem. So the other 4 parts you take for yourself also become an abode for Hashem, because you're given that 1/5. Hashem doesn't expect us to give it all to Hashem. He wants us to give a portion. Yeah, that's one of the important things. We also should tithe our time to learn with people as well. That's something Moshe Feinstein brought down. He used to say this over to the Haredi world. They need to tithe their time more for learning with people who are not as fortunate as them to have full-time learning. And they should give an hour a day to learn with someone who's working, someone who's outside of their kollel. It was a big thing I used to push over to tzaddikim and Rosh Kollalim in that world. And I say I'm one of those guys, even though I'm able to give a bit more time to learning, but I also need to learn with some of your guys who are high level, so I can grow in learning. You need to give that hashkafa to the Haredi world, not just that their learning is for themselves, but it's about Am Yisrael. Anyway, they said I'm a kanoi for chesed, so I'll take that. Here we go. There's one known statement our sages have declared that the mitzvah of charity is equivalent to all the offerings and sacrifices. And just to end off before we start learning on Chavusa, Korbanos hi kol chai oila l'Hashem oidei behema achas kol sameach oidei asurin salas achad belul b'shemen. In the case of sacrifice, all of Israel elevates to Hashem through the Korbanos. So once again, this is something which we need the base of English for, but it's the same concept of tzedakah. The whole animal was elevated through the Korbanos, and all the aspects of the animal, all the connection, the chai and behema and sameach, the whole aspect that all their different minerals and elements are inside the animal get elevated through the korban, through the sacrifice. So too, tzedakah, by giving 1/5 of our money or 1/10, according to the bottom line halacha, that elevates all our panasa. Okay, we'll just end off for today and get ready for Hashem, for Parshas B'Midbar, an opportunity, a whole new sefer to go into the Midbar, into the place of wilderness, to find Hashem there. Also, in all kinds of places, that's where the Torah is given, Midbar Sinai, in a place where there's the least gilui of Hashem, is the place where we reveal Hashem the most. That's part of what we're here for, to reveal Hashem in the seemingly deserts of this world, where Hashem gilui, his natural blessing, is more hidden, and we have to bring it out. A place of humility, a place of Mesiras Nefesh. So that's what the Torah is given. the Brias Gufa Kamachkos Lakuman. Apart from this, all that one has eaten and drunk, generally enjoyed for bodily health, from the other 4/5 of his earnings, is elevated towards Hashem during the Torah study and tefillah. And that's once again so important to fix those times of learning and davening. As we're going to talk about on Shavuos, the idea of kaviyas itim, fixing Torah, it also means to fix it in your heart. That you have to kaver the Torah inside of you. Chokek libecha. We're going to talk about this on Shavuos. And I give the shir here. We'll talk about making sure the Torah becomes part of us. It really internally goes into our blood, goes into our nefesh, into our general actions, and that's partly done through tzedakah, through living a life of Torah mitzvahs, of Ratzon Hashem, tuning into the will of Hashem, and Mekayim all these beautiful words in the Tanya. Zocha Bez Hashem, a beautiful week, and a beautiful Chanas Shavuos. Next Sunday, maybe we'll be a Zocha to learn a little bit before Shavuos, because that's probably the best way of prepare for Yom Tov, to learn a little bit more. So we'll do one more week of Tanya before we makabel a new portion of Torah, something we should prepare for, a new chelek of all the different halachim of Torah, of Panemius, Pardes, Yud Ke, Vav Ke,